talk about, I think more in the context of front of house interacting with guests, table touch. How can chefs, as counter concepts are becoming more popular and open kitchens and the restaurant where I became like executive sous chef at, I would go out into the dining room frequently, especially to regulars and critics and stuff like that, because it was just an extra touch, and I had to learn how to leave the kitchen, because a lot of chefs, I think, retreat to the kitchen as kind of a reprieve from being extroverted. So you can talk a little bit about front of house tips, but I'd actually be more curious in how chefs can learn table touch and get better at it.
I love a chef table touch. I believe it goes in a hierarchy. It's server, front of the house manager, GM, possibly the owner, and then chef. If I can get a chef at your table, I'm good, because your level of discourse and communication changes. People feel that they can tee off and have that negative aggression with a server or a manager or even a GM. But by the time you get to a chef, that's the person who's coming over and visibly, chef coat there, taking responsibility. And anytime, whether the person's right or not about the overcooked steak, it's literally that responsibility of saying, hey, I'm here and your opinion matters to me. And the number of times that I have seen people that have stayed elevated with a chef at the table is about zero. So that's whenever I can go to, and I will, and I'll walk to chefs. I'll be like, chef, can you please do me a favor and go to table 43 with me? And he'll be like, yeah, I can, I got you. And then we go down, and you can see the difference. So understanding of that as a chef, use it as the opportunity to say that all this is that they have an opinion and they want you to collect data. So it's not a falling on the sword from Michelle, I'm so sorry and we're terrible and you're great. It's, you obviously have an expectation and we missed the mark, and I would really love your feedback so that we can take this to improve. We take this seriously and I really want to hear from you. And in doing that and then letting them talk and truly having a conversation with them for a minute is going to make them feel heard. Because that's the whole reason why people leave negative reviews anyway, is that they didn't think anybody cared about them in the restaurant. If a chef is at your table,
the middleman's gone. There's no middleman.
I mean, there's legit the person who So in a perfect world, chef would talk to every table, but I need chef, being a chef. But just understanding that their rationale of it. A GM goes to the table, or a front of house manager goes to the table, trying to figure out, how can I minimize this? How can I fix this? How can I maneuver them past this so they'll come back for another experience? Chef is, hey, let's just talk about it. I just want to hear what you're thinking. And I think that the value of that is amazing.
One thing that really helped me as I was trying to get more comfortable with table touch in this context, I think, is asking for feedback even when it's not negative. Like going to present the next dish. I know that I don't technically need to, but I'm going to go to table 13 and I'm going to give them their next course. And really kind of building up that muscle was really helpful for me, because if the only time that you interact with guests in the dining room happens to be in negative situations where you're trying to diffuse something, or you're trying to, like you said, respond to feedback in the moment, it can often cause this really negative kind of like Pavlovian relationship with like, hey, chef, we needed to come out into the dining room. You're like, fuck.
Right, yeah.
It's like
everyone sees him come out. They're like, oh, damn.
No, here we go. But if it becomes this regular thing where you're always kind of like wanting to check in on people, and you're just kind of like taking, a couple minutes between turns and talking to tables as they're kind of getting towards the end of their meal, I think that can be really valuable for folks.
I do that too, and I mean, and not just Fabio is a celebrity chef, so people want to see Fabio at their table. But when I work with chefs that are not on TV, just straightforward, super awesome chefs, I often, whenever I have that table that I can see that they're clicked on, the lights on, we've got them, they love it. I do the same thing. I'm like, chef, could you come over to table 43 and let's, they're having a great experience, because all they're doing is talk about how great it is, and that I love. I just did this recently in one of our concepts in Memphis, and it wasn't a standard. I just happened to have been there at the time, and they were just raving about it, and I pulled chef over, and he was the exec sous, and he was running the floor for brunch, and I said to him, hey, table 15 really loves it. Could you mind talking? And he was like, and then he went out for like 5 minutes, and they told him how great he was. And then he went back into the kitchen, the hot-ass kitchen with 200 plates going, and it was better for him because he was like, oh, shit. Because that's the one thing chefs never get to really do. And especially everybody in the line never gets to see what I see. It's beneficial for me, and I am in a very advantageous situation because I get to walk around and 95% of the time be told how great I am and how great this restaurant is, how great the food is. That's the majority of what I do. I talk to people, and they say how amazing it is. And they don't have that. Your person in the line doesn't have the ability to walk around and go, oh, damn, people really love it. And I kind of wish they did, because it would really give them that feeling of, yeah, all right, this is worth it. Look at all these happy, smiley people. So anytime I can get somebody back in the house to come in the front, I'm loving.
Are you and I in agreement that there should not be such a harsh line between front of house and back of house? Am I accurate in kind of saying that?
I mean, I've spent my entire life trying to figure out how to break that down.
I wasn't going to lead into this question if you thought the other way, or if there was a different underlying philosophy. Okay, cool.
It's a chasm. There's no doubt.
Cool, yeah. Cool. And I lead with that because I think that there's elements of, you bring the finished fish dish from table 23 back into the kitchen, and even just a quick shout out to the line cook of saying so you're the server, you got feedback, conveying that to the person who prepared the dish goes an incredibly long way. That's how front of house can kind of extend an olive branch to the kitchen in a way. And then I think on the other side of things, we had a lot of success in having maybe once a quarter, twice a year, having individual front of house folks come and spend a day or a half day in the kitchen and just cooking with the line cook team, because it gives them a better sense of how does the kitchen operate, how do sauces get made, how does you take it from a case of cauliflower or fennel into a puree for the chicken main course. And they both go such a really long way. Does anything else kind of stand out as kind of individual tactical practices that people can start next week in their restaurant jobs to meld that? I don't know if melding is the right.
It sounds super basic, but it's day one of training whenever we open a new restaurant. We have everybody in here, and we all do the hello, and we do the icebreaker, front of the house, back of the house. Well, everyone says their name and all this other stuff, and then I will hold up the wine list, and then I'll hold up everybody in the room, and I'll say, okay, by the end of the week, which is it more important for you to know, every wine on the wine list or every single person in this room? Because nothing drives me more insane than if you have to go back to the middle of the service and ask for more forks from dish, and you don't know his name or her name, you shouldn't be in the restaurant. The fact that the line for front of the house is just nameless bunch of people that they have no interaction with, and they don't even bother to know their name, is annoying and horrible. And just something as simple as that, being able to know and have a connection with all of those from both sides, is really, really a start. It's a very basic beginning. But anything that you can continue to do from that, I'm a big believer in team building. I'm a big believer in bringing everyone into pre-shifts. I'm a big believer in having communications where everybody is associated. But just starting by knowing who's that prep person who's making your pasta at 5 a.m. every morning, that person.
The last chef that I worked for would come into the private dining room, because we would often eat staff meal in the private dining room, and he would sometimes see the thing that you see at just cocktail parties where all the men go to talk to each other and all the women go and talk to each other. And it would happen with front of house, back of house. So it would be all the front of house people on one side of the table, all the back of house, the kitchen team on the other side. And he'd be like, everybody play musical chairs. Everybody get up and move chairs and intersperse yourselves amongst each other. Because it's sometimes, especially if it's there's a lot of new hires that came on, or sometimes it can be the reverse. It's there's people have been on the team for so long that there's just kind of the gravity of things have just over time kind of pulled things into separate directions, and people don't feel comfortable with that. And so forcing that, in as kind of a way as you can often lead to really positive team dynamics.
I think the word that you hit on there was comfortable. And anytime that you can break comfort and to get people outside of themselves, you do it because you'll end up with a better result.